Have you ever felt like you've been trying so hard, but then just one failure makes everything fall apart? You once had a clear goal, made a plan, promised yourself that this time would be different. But then one small mistake, one lazy day, one unexpected event, and you're back to square one. I've met many people like that. And honestly, I used to be one of them. I once thought if I were strong enough, disciplined enough, I'd never fall. But then I realized no one can stay strong forever. What helps you get back up after every fall is not willpower, but a system. A system is the invisible force that holds you together when your emotions want to give up. A system is the railway track that keeps you from derailing no matter how strong the storm outside is. A person without a system, every time they fall, they start over from zero. A person with a system, even if they fall, they only need one step to get back on track. I've seen many talented people fail not because they were incapable, but because they never built a system to recover. They lived by emotions, and emotions, as you know, change every day. But a system, if built correctly, stands firm through every storm. So in today's video, I'll share with you 7 principles to build a system that helps you bounce back after every fall. These principles won't just help you recover faster, they'll make you stronger every time you fall. And you should stay until the end, because principle number 7 is the key that will help you turn failure into momentum for success. Principle number 1, don't trust emotions. Trust structure. I used to tell my students, if you only work when you feel inspired, you'll stay broke forever. It sounds harsh, but it's true. Because emotions change like the weather, but structure keeps you on track, rain or shine. I once had a student named Michael. He was talented, had a big vision, and a heart full of passion. Whenever he felt inspired, he worked tirelessly, staying up all night, writing plans, taking action at incredible speed. But then just a week later, that energy vanished. He lost motivation, lost interest, and everything stopped. And so for years, he stayed stuck in the same place. One day I asked him, Michael, what do you think is holding you back? He said, maybe I lack motivation, sir. I smiled and said, no, you don't lack motivation. You lack a system that keeps running, even when motivation disappears. You see, successful people don't need emotions to act. They need structure that keeps them moving, even when emotions fade. Structure is what you set up before life gets hard. It's the map that keeps you from getting lost, the rail that keeps you from going off course. For example, if you want to read every day, don't wait for free time, set a fixed reading hour. If you want to work out, don't depend on mood. Set an alarm and lay out your gym clothes the night before. If you want to build a skill, don't just hope you'll learn lock in your weekly learning sessions. Structure is discipline-made, systematic. It doesn't trap you. It frees you from the chaos of emotion. Remember, emotion is the wave, structure is the boat. If you only ride the wave, you'll get swept away. But if you have a solid boat, you can sail through any storm. And the interesting thing is, once you start living by structure, you'll realize real motivation comes after action, not before it. You don't need to feel like doing it to start. You start, and then the feeling comes. So from today, don't ask, do I feel inspired? Ask instead, has my system run today? If the answer is not yet, then get back to it, even if it's just one small step. Because that's how you train a new muscle, the muscle of consistency. But structure alone isn't enough. Because sometimes, no matter how good your system is, you'll still fall. What makes the difference is, do you have a way back? And that brings us to the second principle, systemize the comeback. Principle number 2, systemize the comeback. I once said, failure doesn't kill you. The delay after failure does. Many people after falling don't get up right away. They wait. Wait until they feel ready. Wait until they have motivation again. Wait until things feel better. But you know what happens? The next day, they still don't feel ready. A week later, they still haven't started. And after a month, a year, they look back and realize they never really came back from that fall. I realize that successful people don't wait for emotions to come back. They have a process for coming back. They make the comeback part of their system, not a spontaneous event. I remember a student named Sarah. She was very persistent, but also a perfectionist. Every time she failed, she would spend weeks blaming herself. She believed she had to be perfect again before she could resume. I told her, Sarah, you don't need to be perfect to come back. You just need a clear process so you don't get stuck in emotions. I showed her 4 simple steps, what I call the comeback ritual. 1, gourd pause. Allow yourself to breathe without judgment. 2, add, reflect, write down what happened and how you truly feel. 3, 1, extract the lesson. 1 mistake equals 1 new data point for your system. 4, 1, take the smallest action. Even 1 simple step is enough to restore momentum. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Because most people don't fail from Not knowing what to do, they fail because they have no ritual for coming back when things break down. Think of a professional athlete. When they get injured, they don't sit around complaining. They have a medical team, a recovery, schedule light exercises, and a recheck date. They don't wait to feel better. They have a system to recover even while still in pain. That's why they return faster than others. Life works the same way. Build yourself an invisible team, a personal comeback system you can activate anytime you fall, a playlist that lifts your spirit, a list of 3 people to call when I lose motivation, a note that says why I started, and most importantly, a comeback schedule that doesn't depend on emotion. Because if you don't schedule your comeback, you'll stay forever in preparing to come back, and that's where dreams slowly die. Systemizing the comeback means turning the act of getting up into a habit, not a rare event. Every time you fall, remember, you don't have to start from zero, you just have to reactivate your comeback system. The last time you fell, did you have a system for coming back, or were you just relying on emotion? And once you've learned how to come back, the next thing you need is to protect your energy so you don't burn out every time you fall. Because no matter how good your system is, if your energy runs out, it stops. That brings us to the 3rd principle. Build energy backup habits. Principle number 3, build energy backup habits. I've seen many people with great systems and strong discipline still end up collapsing. Not because they didn't know what to do, but because they ran out of energy. Have you noticed this? There are days when you didn't do anything wrong, yet everything feels heavy. You still follow your schedule, still try your best, but your mind feels empty, your body tired, your faith worn thin. And then that one wave of exhaustion is enough to make you take just one day off, then another. I used to be like that too. When I was young, I believed that willpower alone was enough. I worked day and night without rest, without pause. But one morning I woke up and realized my whole body was drained, my mind blank, and I had no excitement for anything anymore. I had burned myself out through my own effort. That was when I understood one thing. Willpower is precious fuel, but if you don't know how to refuel, you'll burn out. From then on, I started building my energy backup system. It's like a portable battery for the soul, a place to recharge when life drains you. For me, energy backup isn't about escaping, it's about intentional recovery. When I feel tired, I don't force myself to work. I take a 30-minute silent walk. When my mind feels messy, I reread pages from my old journal where I wrote the reasons I started. When I lose faith, I revisit thank you letters from my students, reminders that my work still matters. These things are small, but they help me bounce back 10 times faster than forcing myself to push through. I call this my energy restoration system. You should also have your own mental charging stations, things that help you reconnect with your purpose before returning to action. For example, a playlist that calms you and reminds you of your original passion, a book that makes you want to be a better person, a friend you can talk to honestly without masks, or simply 10 minutes of stillness to breathe and remind yourself that you still have another chance. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. If you want to give energy, you must know how to refill it. And that's not weakness, that's the wisdom of endurance. You may fall, but don't let yourself burn out. Because when energy runs out, every system collapses. But when it's restored, even in failure, you'll still have the strength to stand again. What helps you recharge after days of exhaustion? And do you do it regularly? But sometimes the problem isn't whether you have energy or not. It's that you're spending that energy on too many things at once. That's why so many people can't stay consistent. So the next principle will help you simplify your comeback. That's principle number 4. Don't maximize, minimize. Principle number 4. Don't maximize, minimize. I used to think that after every failure, what I needed to do was come back stronger, faster, and do twice as well. Sounds right, doesn't it? But that very mindset made me exhausted and directionless for years. When you fall, you don't need to run faster, you just need to stand up and take another step. Many people fail because they try to fix everything at once. They rewrite their plans, reset their goals, change habits, take new courses. But what they really need is simply to regain rhythm. It's like running. If you trip, you don't need to get up and sprint. You just walk a few steps. Once your breath steadies, you can run again. I remember a student named Daniel. After his first project failed, he was determined to start over. He wrote detailed plans, took 3 new courses, and worked 16 hours a day. The result, 3 weeks later, he collapsed again, even harder this time. When he came to me, I said one thing, Daniel, you don't need to rebuild everything. You just need to restart one small part of your old system. I guided him to pick just one task every morning, spend 10 minutes writing down what he learned yesterday. only 10 minutes. No deadlines, no pressure. But he kept it up for 30 days. That one tiny habit helped him restore his work rhythm, regain confidence, and naturally his energy and discipline returned. Remember, success doesn't come from doing more. It comes from not giving up. When everything breaks down, don't try to maximize, you'll quickly burn out. Instead, minimize, pick the smallest possible action that helps you get back into rhythm. It could be 10 minutes of reading each morning, writing one line in your journal, doing one simple workout, making one call to a friend who inspires you. These small actions are like flipping the switch of your system. Once the switch turns on, energy begins to flow again. And when you maintain those small actions long enough, you'll realize something profound. Progress isn't the result of giant leaps, but the reward of small, consistent steps repeated over time. After your next setback, instead of trying to fix everything at once, what's one small action you can take today to start again? And once you've learned how to come back through small steps, the next important thing is to know how to recognize each of those steps. Because if you don't see your progress, you'll soon lose motivation and give up. And that's exactly why I want you to deeply understand principle number 5, acknowledge progress no matter how small. Principle number 5, acknowledge progress no matter how small. I once said you can't improve what you don't measure, and you won't stay consistent with what you can't see progress in. One of the biggest reasons people give up isn't because they're not moving forward, but because they don't realize they are. I once had a student named Sarah, a young, passionate woman. She worked hard, took detailed notes, studied every day, yet she often complained, "Sir, I don't feel like I'm improving at all." I asked, "Do you keep track of what you've accomplished?" She shook her head. I smiled and said, "Sarah, if you only look at how far you still have to go, you'll always feel inadequate. But if you look back at how far you've come, you'll realize you've gone farther than you think." You see, our brains have a strange habit. They magnify failures and minimize progress. That's why every mistake sticks vividly in your memory, but every success quietly slips by unnoticed. If you don't consciously acknowledge progress, you'll live under the illusion that you've achieved nothing. And that illusion slowly but surely kills motivation. Since then, I've developed a simple habit I still keep today. Every night, I write down 3 things I accomplished, no matter how small. Sometimes it's, I finished 20 minutes of reading, or I didn't skip my morning workout, or even I said thank you to the barista who made my coffee. Those tiny things, when you look back after a week or a month, create a deep sense that you are indeed moving forward. And that feeling of progress helps you bounce back faster after every setback, because you understand that failure doesn't erase everything you've done. It's just a pause point in an ongoing journey. If you don't see change, you won't maintain effort. But if you see even a 1% improvement each day, you won't want to stop. That's the rule of the mind. Seeing results creates motivation, leads to continued action. Remember, small progress isn't insignificant. It's the fuel for greatness. I've witnessed ordinary people achieve extraordinary results simply because they didn't overlook the small steps. They didn't wait for big wins to celebrate. They celebrated every move in the right direction. You should do the same. Record it, appreciate it, and praise yourself every day, because that's how you build the strength to come back no matter how many times you fall. What have you acknowledged today, even the smallest thing that brought you closer to a better version of yourself? But there's something you must be careful of. If you only acknowledge progress without learning from mistakes, you'll keep repeating the same loops. That's why in the next principle, I want to share with you how to turn mistakes into data, not damage. Because smart people don't avoid failure. They store it to learn. Principle number 6, turn mistakes into data, not scars. I once said, mistakes aren't your enemies unless you keep them in your heart. Most people don't fail because they were wrong. They fail because they carry their mistakes with them. They let past errors become emotional baggage, and every time they try to start again, the past pulls them back. I once had a student named Ethan. He was smart and hardworking, but terrified of making mistakes. Whenever he did something wrong, he'd beat himself up for days. I asked him, "Ethan, what would you think if a software engineer deleted all their data just because the system threw an error?" He looked surprised. "Of course not. They'd save the error log and fix it." I smiled. "Then why are you deleting the most valuable data you have? Your failures." You see, smart people don't bury mistakes. They store them. They turn them into data to improve the system. When a farmer plants seeds and they don't sprout, he doesn't abandon the field. He notes the soil needs more water, the seed type isn't right, or the season wasn't ideal. Then next time he plants again, better, wiser. Failure becomes information, not pain. You should do the same. Every mistake you make is a valuable piece of feedback about yourself. It tells you what's missing, what's excessive, or where you're off track. If you learn to record, analyze, and learn from it, you'll never repeat the same mistake. You'll only upgrade your system. I keep a failure journal. In it, I don't write emotions, I write facts. I write, today I failed because I didn't prepare enough. I missed this opportunity because I spoke too fast. Then next to it, I write, next time, here's how I'll do it differently. Just a few lines, but they transform emotion into improvement. And you know what's magical? When you start seeing mistakes as data, you stop being afraid of them. You become free, because every error becomes a new lesson your system learns. Remember, every failure is just feedback, not a verdict. When you understand that the past can no longer paralyze you, you'll simply use it to fine-tune the road ahead. That's how successful people evolve through every fall, while unsuccessful ones stay stuck afraid to face themselves. From today on, start recording the error logs of your life. Don't bury them in your heart, write them down, learn from them, and let them guide you toward a better version of yourself. When you look back at your most recent failure, do you see it as a wound or as data to upgrade your system? And finally, every strong system ultimately aims for one thing, not just to operate better, but to turn you into the system itself. Because when you're strong enough within you, no longer need any external mechanism to rise again. That's the final principle. The strongest system is the person you become. Principle number 7, the strongest system is the person you become. I once told my students, if you build systems but forget to build yourself, those systems will collapse. Because in the end, every external system is only as strong as the person who runs it. You can have a perfect plan, advanced tools, and a clear roadmap, but if your mind is weak, you'll destroy everything you built with your own hands. I once knew a man named Robert. He had a startup, a team, and big goals. But every time things got difficult, he would change his entire system, replacing people, changing directions, rewriting plans. I asked him, Robert, have you ever considered that maybe the thing that needs to change isn't the system but you? He went silent because he realized he had been trying to fix everything on the outside while the real leak was within. You see, the best system isn't written on paper, it's built inside the person you become. A person with disciplined thinking can turn any circumstance into a place for growth. A person with a steady mind can turn every failure into data for learning. A person with strong belief can turn every challenge into a chance for strength. So instead of asking what's the best system, ask yourself, am I strong enough to run the system I've built? Your system can fail, your plans can change. But if you become someone who can always come back, you'll never truly fail. Look at the most successful people you know. They don't just have great strategies, they have an inner foundation that doesn't break. No matter how circumstances shift, they remain standing because they rely on nothing but themselves. And that's the ultimate goal of this journey. Not just to help you build a strong system, but to help you become one. A person who can learn again after losing everything, start again after everything collapses, and still believe I can come back because I've done it before. When you reach that point, you no longer fear failure. Because failure becomes just a test to prove how strong you've become. If everything you had disappeared today, would you be strong enough to rebuild from scratch? And that's what this journey is meant to give you, the power to come back no matter how many times life knocks you down. Because when you become the strongest system, you no longer fear loss, since you are the one who can rebuild everything from zero. Now that you've come this far with me, take a moment to reflect on your own journey. Maybe you've fallen before. Maybe you've quit halfway, blamed yourself, or thought you weren't enough. But if today you're still here, still listening, still learning, then you've never truly failed. Failure isn't when you fall. Failure is when you refuse to rise again. And that's why I believe success isn't defined by how many opportunities you get, but by whether you have a system that helps you return every time life tests you. Let's recall the 7 principles we've gone through together, one nod. Believe in structure, not emotion. 2-1D, systemize your comeback. 3-1D, back up your energy before it runs out. 4-1D, minimize to regain rhythm. 5-Dotto, acknowledge progress, no matter how small. 6-Dotto, turn mistakes into data, not scars. 7-9, and finally become the strongest system you've ever built. If you live by these 7 principles, you won't just learn how to rise, you'll learn how to stand firm no matter how many storms come your way. Remember my words? Don't fear failure. Fear not having a system to return. Because once you have a system, every fall is just a small test on your path to growth. but without one, even a single stumble can stop you forever. So if this video resonated with you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And leave a comment below, I will come back. Because sometimes just writing those words means you've already started your journey of recovery. I'm Jim Rohn, and I'll see you in the next video, where we'll continue our journey toward becoming a better version of ourselves, one day at a time.